In 2025, we see and hear so much. The much being how the news is reported. Some argue that it's too far to the right, while others may argue maybe the left has too much influence. But what if there was a way to resolve this with nonpartisan reporting? That is what takes place each and every single day at the Toledo Free Press and 106.1 WAKT, all a part of the Toledo Integrated Media Education Group. But before we go any further, the question needs to be asked, what is a nonprofit? Well, Webster's defines it as not conducted or maintained for the purpose of making a profit. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Well, there's more to it than that, especially in the case of the Toledo Integrated Media Education beneficiaries. Toledo Integrated Media Education, a 501c3 nonprofit, was formed in 2013 in order to organize and mobilize community support for independent media that empowers underrepresented perspectives in the Toledo, Ohio area and beyond. Since June of 2024, Toledo Integrated Media Education, otherwise known as TIME, has operated a digital local newsroom, the Toledo Free Press, and since December of 2017 also operated WAKT-LP 106.1 FM, a community radio station. And the Toledo Free Press was the entity that I had the opportunity to spend some time with. But let me tell you, I wasn't alone. You see, a nonprofit like Toledo Integrated wouldn't be able to survive without partners to help facilitate its need in the community and growth. For example, the City of Toledo, the Regional Growth Partnership of Northwest Ohio, local CBS network affiliate WTOL 11, and so many others. The project was unique in the sense that, while I had done work in the past, volunteer work mainly, for various nonprofits, this one was different. And how it was different was I didn't really know how it operated. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know how other nonprofits operated either. I just didn't want to be the one to admit it. But courtesy of people like board president Sean Nestor, Free Press founding member Tom Pounds, Toledo Free Press managing editor Aaron Holden, and Time Board member Morgan Kaczynski, I was able to have the opportunity to get to know the entire process. The process involves a very carefully constructed and collected set of rules, regulations, and ethics. But the question sometimes gets asked, what is the reality versus the fiction of a 501c classification? Well, the main difference is basic nonprofit and for-profit breakdowns. For-profit businesses, it's very self-explanatory, benefits the business, right? Nonprofits, as a general rule of thumb, are mission-driven groups, such as the Toledo Integrated Media Education, that reinvest their revenue back into the organization's cause to benefit the public at large. This core difference impacts everything from taxation, the people who are the organizational heads, to how they handle their finances. Ultimately, this practice leads to versatility in business and allows for the day-to-day operation of the news reporting side with the Toledo Free Press and the broadcast arm of 106.1 WAKT. Now, let's discuss the donation side of the business, shall we? There are multiple ways and means that individuals or groups are able to provide tax-deductible donations to the group. One of which is through the ToledoMedia.org website. You can also donate through the 106.1 WAKT website. Also, the Toledo Free Press website has areas there for you to go through purchase advertising, which of course is able to be turned around and put back into the nonprofit business as well. But one of the big areas that is the pride and joy of the group that helps bring in those ad dollars and donations is the nonpartisan reporting and the impact it has on the community at large. As a member of the Institute for Nonprofit News, the Toledo Free Press has a very simple mission: to engage, inform, and enhance civic awareness through in-depth coverage of various aspects of local news, maybe government affairs, health and education, community development, all types of aspects of what goes on in the community of Toledo, Lucas County, and the surrounding areas, okay? Without a shadow of a doubt, the Toledo Free Press and 106.1 WAKT and their mission for the Toledo Integrated Media Education Group is redefining the profit versus nonprofit model by being a champion for the people of Toledo and the surrounding areas. Now, I've been getting asked, Joe, how are you able to use your leadership skills you have acquired in other areas for the benefit of this project? Easy for me to say, right? Well, you know what? That's a great question. So let's dive into that right now. Let's face it. Sometimes when you're working on a project, no matter what it is, you just don't have the time to sit there with a big old plastic container of peanut butter filled pretzels that came from Costco and just munch on them bad boys. You just don't have that kind of time sometimes. You got to buckle down. You make good use of your time, good use of what you have, especially when it comes to resources, because sometimes you just don't have the money. So you have to make do with what you have. Therefore, utilizing your time the best of your ability is 100% the best route to take in an area like this. That brings us to networking, the ability to talk to and communicate with people here, there, and everywhere. You know, no matter what business you're in, whether it be media, could be guest service at a hotel, maybe you work in a bank. Networking is so important, building rapport. You know, in a previous lifetime, believe it or not, what seems like a previous lifetime, I sold jewelry for a living. And during the time that I was selling jewelry, I learned a lot about sales and a lot about how to deal with people. And also when conflicts would come about, how to handle those matters. And what I can tell you is networking, without a shadow of a doubt, is one of the most important aspects of any business, no matter what it is. You need to have the ability to network. If you can't network, then ultimately you don't have a business. Which brings us to our next point, the most important part of time management and networking regarding leadership skills: communication. We've all been guilty of this from time to time. Somebody sends us an email, somebody calls us, somebody drops us a text message, whatever. Maybe we're a little lax in getting back with them, right? We've all done this. We've all done this. Unfortunately, in the world of business, the same roles that apply, or makeshift roles, whatever you want to call them, that are a part of our personal lives work a little differently when it comes to business and profits, and when there's dollars on the line, especially if you're a Fortune 10 company, for example. Do you think a Fortune 10 company would be able to exist if communication was not a part of their day-to-day operations? I'll bet you networking is too. But here's what you need to understand when it comes to communication. It is so important to have good communication. Do not hesitate. If there's something that you don't understand, ask a question. Don't just assume. Assumption is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of the worst things that you can ever do. Never assume anything. Always have confirmation, at least if you have the ability to. And once you have that communication and you have that ability to confirm those thoughts instead of just assuming, you'd be amazed at what that does. But don't hesitate to send an email, make a phone call. I know that's a novel concept nowadays with some people making a phone call. Wait, I've got to talk on this thing? Yeah, it's what we used to do before the internet came along. Such a novel concept, right? But you might want to also send a text message, maybe a DM if you got Microsoft Teams, something along those lines. Snapchat, of course, is a completely different thing, and that's a different discussion for a different day. But the point being, you want to communicate. You want to be able to talk to people and communicate with people. It's all a part of the business. It's what you have to do to continue moving forward. Otherwise, no communication, much like networking, no business. Now, how does all the previously mentioned apply to my career development impact? First, it has shown me that it's okay to be open to community-oriented businesses and what they are trying to accomplish. I've never been against a group attempting to serve the better good. There's a lot of really, really good people out there that do a lot for the underprivileged, the underserved, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're with a group that is doing this, and say you're not getting paid, you're donating your time basically to volunteer, it's a different feeling. And it's a feeling that I recommend experiencing at least once in your life. Most people, I think, in 2025 have to a certain degree done this. It's not necessarily something anymore. And there was a time, believe it or not, where people would look at things like that and they would say, oh, well, I'm not going to go deal with them because they're, that's I don't want to go work at the soup kitchen. Those people over there, they're just weird. These are the kind of things that used to go on. We had a completely different culture in this world that existed some 20, 25, 30 years ago. People just thought differently and they did things differently, and that was how it was. Now we have more progressiveness when it comes to the ability to understand people and accept their differences and accept their struggles and help them along. And being a part of something like that is really, it does something to your soul, and the only way that I can describe it is that you have to experience it to get it. Otherwise, you just never will. Which brings me to my next point. Things are not always as they seem. Look at social media, then compare that to your everyday life. Okay. How is one like the other? Now, let's think about this one. Okay? For that matter, how does the other align with your personal feelings, beliefs, and ethical standards? Makes you think, doesn't it? Nonprofits are a necessary component to providing a much-needed service for those who may not be able to receive the same services or care in the community as others. Listen, if nonprofits didn't exist, the world would be a much different place than what it is today. Therefore, nonprofits are a very important part of not just the culture, but they also help for-profit businesses too, because in a way, whenever a nonprofit does something that works, the for-profits want to do it too. Why? Because it makes them look good in the community. It's just smart business, okay? And also too, let's face it, people who are for-profit businesses, this is all they care about, okay? When you deal with a nonprofit, you deal with the group that helps the community, plain and simple. And that is exactly what the Toledo Free Press and 106.1 WAKT is attempting to do and accomplish. In our last set of slides, let's discuss how this experience will influence interview preparation for future one-on-one meetings with potential business partners. Going back to the previously mentioned, nonprofits are for the community and the people that are in it. There's an old saying about playing to the room. And when you're dealing with a situation like this, you have to take a look at what's in front of you, analyze it, break it down. If you want to get analytical about it, like I tend to do from time to time, you're more than welcome to do that as well. But you want to look at a situation and say, okay, how am I able to use my skills and my gifts as an individual who communicates and talks to people to help this group over here? How am I able to do that? How am I able to convey all of that and express all of that and have an ultimate goal at the end, whatever it may be? It's very simple. It takes understanding that being a nonprofit serves a greater purpose than what any of us will ever understand, or for that matter, maybe even run into. Allowing for a different perspective is important to society. Opening up the lines of communication for people who want all sides of an issue to be heard is an important tool in decision-making and critical thinking. Nowhere else is this more prominent than in nonpartisan, nonprofit reporting. 106.1 WAKT carries the distinction of being the only broadcast station directly affiliated with the Time Group. Regarding print outlets, only one out of the two 501c3 news outlets carry the distinction of being a part of the Time Group, and that is the Toledo Free Press. In the end, we all have the ability to inspire change, some of us more so than others, but we won't know until we do it. My name is Joe Smith, and this has been my service learning presentation for Ohio University Online Career Strategies class for the fall 2025 semester. Happy holidays to you and yours, and have a happy new year.